This is going to be a kind of a fun video. However, this is my third time trying to record this video today. I just kept making so many mistakes. Because why? There's a lot to unpack about the Emotiva XDA-3 reference DAC, preamplifier, and headphone amplifier all in one unit for under $800. And it's sold by a company based in the United States that sells direct to you, the consumer, saving you money that would have normally went as margin to wholesalers and margin to retailers and physical brick and stores because they all got salaries to pay and bills to pay. Rather, Emotiva puts the money in your pocket or gives you even more features and performance than what you would find an equivalent device from a retail store, for example. So, you love that. Plus, they throw in a 5-year transferable warranty. So I think they're pretty confident in the quality and build of their stuff. And I'm excited to bring them kind of in the fold and start reviewing some of their products because I've heard so many good things about them. Now, let's talk a little bit about the XDA-3 because this is a reference quality DAC, preamp, and headphone amplifier all in one. When they say reference, what are they referring to? Is it just marketing fluff? Not necessarily, because this is the type of DAC and headphone amplifier that you can use to actually refer to and judge others against because the quality and the sound is there in this unit. It's not some cheap plastic type of thing that might last a year or two and then, shoot craps on you. This should last you for many, many, many years. It's highly well made. They really truly made this for hi-fi enthusiasts, audiophiles, whatever you want to call yourself. People that appreciate great sound. That's who this DAC is for, the XDA-3. Now, let's talk about just the overall design and build of this unit. As you can see, this is a full-sized piece of hi-fi gear. It matches up perfectly with the NADB 316B V2. So full size for your stereo rack, it's going to fit in there very nicely. All metal construction, so you have that, and it is well supported by the feet on there. Now, this isn't exactly super level, but it does a very good job. Let's take a look at the front panel on here. Going left to right, you have your 1/4-inch input. By the way, I left the tape on here. Why? Because Emotiva loaned this to me. This is not mine to keep. All opinions of my own. No one's reviewed this video prior to posting. Back to the front panel. So you have your 1/4-inch headphone jack, and I used my Aria Organics here, and the chip TPA 6120A2 headphone amplifier. I looked this up. Puts out about 1.5 watts, more than enough power to drive most headphones. Sounded fantastic. I could literally review the sound quality of the DAC just using the headphones with it. It's that capable. You got buttons here to change inputs so change your inputs. And if we just go through here, no, sorry about that. I don't have this quite level. But if I change the inputs, optical 1, optical 2, HDMI ARC, you have USB, your balanced input, RCA, coaxial 1, coaxial 2, back to optical 1. So you have that. Then you have this display. And it shows you your volume, which input you're using, and then finally it shows the frequency of the digital source on here. That's what you have on this display. Then your volume controls, again, you have these buttons. You'll notice that I have it cranked all the way up, and I'll explain why in just a minute. Your volume up and down, and then finally, you can just put it to sleep by tapping this button. The buttons feel very, very solid on there. Nice little snap to them. Does a good job. I left the little plastic protection cover over here, again, because this is a loaner unit. Getting back to why I have this set to 0 dB, because I'm using an integrated amplifier with this, and I'm not necessarily interested in using it in preamp mode right now. So I just set the volume to 0 dB and then plugged it in the auxiliary input of the amp, and we are good to go. Otherwise, you just plug this directly into a power amplifier and you would use the volume up and down on that and call it a day. That's why. The only thing I could not find out about this, the XDA-3, is how you set it to a fixed output, right? Just DAC only mode. Turns out you can't. I understand why Emotiva wants you to use the XDA-3 as a preamp as well as your DAC, all in one unit. So that's why. Let's just take a look at the back of what's on the back of the XDA-3. Well, first off, you have your balanced XLR inputs. You have your RCA single-ended inputs, 2 balanced analog outputs, XLR, and then again these single-ended outputs. USB, HDMI, ARC, which I think is important to put on just about any preamp in today's age. You have optical 1, optical 2, coax 1, coax 2, USB. You have your trigger in, trigger out, and of course your power input. There's plenty of inputs on this thing. This can accommodate a lot of gear. You could put in a CD player, for example, on here if you want. Of course, you could, if you have a turntable that has its own built-in preamp, or whether you got an external one, you could use it with your turntable. This could be the centerpiece. Connect your TV, your record player, your CD player, your streamer, all into one convenient box. So that is what you have with that. Well, let's go over some of the major features. I can't cover them all. There's a link in the description down below if you want more details about the XDA-3. But let's cover some of the more important ones. We covered all the inputs on there. Again, optical, 2 coax, USB, RCA, XLR, HDMI, ARC, all built into this. A fully balanced digital input circuit that is fully balanced from the output of the DAC chips to the XLR connectors. This thing is going to be dead silent. There is no hiss, no noise, no nothing coming from this DAC amp, headphone amp. A full analog ladder DAC, or full analog ladder volume control. Basically, they guarantee this thing is not going to create any unnecessary noise whatsoever. You get the ESS Sabre 9038Q2M DAC chip. This is a well-known chip. It's used in a lot of DACs. Measures extremely well. It's very detailed, almost to the point of being analytical in sound, but it is a great, great DAC chip. The USB on here handles up to 32-bit, 768 kilohertz frequency. The rest of the SPDIFs, 24-bit, 192 frequency response, or frequency. 7 user-selectable filters. I preferred filter number 3. I couldn't really tell any audible differences between the other filters, but 3 seemed to be just a little bit more clear, maybe just a little bit more detail with 3. That could be just me. It handles DSD audio up to DSD 512. The op amp is the OPA 1656. It's a very quiet operational amplifier. The OPA 1656 just is a very low noise type op amp. I think most it does a phenomenal job in this outfit. It also again includes the Texas Instruments TPA 6120A2 headphone amp. And the star of the show, this is just so great. I love this. This is the remote control. I just want to take a moment and tell the manufacturers, folks, this is how you need to make a remote control. This is metal. This is metal. I'm going to put it on the other cam on here, the B cam. Look at that. Solid. This is machined aluminum on here. The back is magnetic, so you just pry that off to replace your batteries. No little plastic clips to break. You could use this to protect your family with. I'm telling you, this is a solid remote. It's got all your usual suspects on here. Your standby, your on, access all your filters, dim the lights, to turn them off, volume up, down, mute, and then change all your inputs. I got to say, this is the best remote that I have ever had come in for any product for review. Good job, Emotiva. I love it. I love it. And finally, you get that transferable 5-year warranty. That means a lot right there. Oh, going out of focus. Okay, back in focus. That 5-year warranty means a lot. Let's talk about just the performance and sound quality. And I've had this going for a couple weeks now, and I've listened to all kinds of genres of music, but one of my favorite go-to albums is Steely Dan. And I pulled out a couple Steely Dan CDs, because I use digital audio FLAC files, or ALAC rather, from Apple. And I listened to Asia, and a lot of people say, well, that's already an audiophile record. Well, yeah, but it is deservedly so. If you listen to Deacon Blues, it's a beautiful tune. But I like it because I'm doing near-field listening, and I use this with a couple different systems, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. But I felt using this with my Klipsch R51s with the NAD 316BV2, I felt that it was very airy sounding, and very detailed. It's very, some reviewers will say it's analytical. I say it's got a lot of clarity to it, a lot of detail. You can hear the individual plucks of strings if you listen carefully enough with the right ear. It's that detailed. In fact, some would say that, yes, it might be a little bit overly analytical, and a little bit over analytical on the high end, on the highest treble. I didn't feel that way. I did think maybe it was just a bit warm in the mid-range, and maybe the treble was just a tad bit bright, but was never fatiguing. We weren't worn out. In other words, this is not the kind of DAC. The XDA-3 is not going to be the kind of device that you just listen to for an hour and go, I don't know what's going on, but I don't want to listen to any more music. It's wearing me out. It will not do that, folks. That's one of the good signs of a well-made product. And if you get an overly analytical DAC, that's exactly what can happen. But this is clear. I'm going to call it clarity. I listened to Black Cow, and Black Cow was punchy. The bass is punchy. It's not muddy. It's fast. It hits hard. It's got good slam to it. The amplifier, the B3, some credit to the B316V2, because it controls, it dampens that bass very, very well. It's again, but the mids are just a bit forward, but not overly so. And what do I mean by forward? Like this. This is forward. Now this is neutral, and of course south of neutral would be, but it's just a little bit north of neutral, and a little bit of warmth to the mids. Nothing terrible. Another album I turned to was again Steely Dan's Gaucho, Hey 19, the track. This is the thing. This is what I look for. I like a three-dimensional soundstage, okay? I like some depth to it. I like some width, and I like some height. So I connected the XDA-3 to my Marantz, PM8006 with the Wharfdale Lintons, and oh my goodness, those Lintons just sounded so beautiful and so I won't say warm, but just they had a very relaxed, like we got this type of sound to them. And the XDA-3 worked brilliantly with the PM8006, and that little bit of brightness on the top end that I was talking about earlier went away completely. So speaker matching with this, I think, is going to be somewhat important. To summarize the sound, this is a very detailed, to the point of almost being analytical DAC, but not where it is annoying. Highs are just a tad bit bright, so as I said, speaker pairing is going to be important. It sounded great with the Wharfdale's Lintons, but I also connected to the Kef Q350s, which just a perfect match with these, by the way. I think you can get by with the Q150. And of course, Kef has come out with the new Q series. But like the Q150s, you can get those really cheap. Nice pairing. This sounds incredible. It really does. It sounded great with my Marantz PM8006. So far, it's sounded really good with just about any amplifier I've used with it. It's a phenomenal sounding DAC preamp and headphone amplifier. What can I say? It does all three jobs. Excellent. That's what it's designed to do. And of course, the headphone amp was great on this, especially with my Aria Organics. As far as, User experience as far as setup and all that, you know, I think Emotiva did a great job packaging and shipping this unit to me. And there's nothing to setting it up. You don't need to load any drivers for Windows or Mac with this. Just plug it in with USB. Off you go. You got your digital source. I will say that in the case of Mac and Windows, they both have kind of their own built-in sound processors. And like on the Mac, you have to go in the MIDI section on there and you tell it, okay, I want 24-bit, 96 kilohertz. Everything is going to be sampled to that. But there are products or programs that kind of work around that. Audiophiles is one. Rune is another. There's some others that will work around that. But just they will work natively out of the box with nothing else to do. There is no remote control app for your phone on there. You got this nice big brick thing and does a great job. So easy to set up. There's nothing to it really. Just plug in your sources, turn it on, and off you go. It couldn't be more simple to use. One favorite part of a review, pros and cons. There is only one con. It's really not a con. I'm sure Emotiva would disagree if I said it was a con. So I'm going to call it a suggestion instead. Pros, exceptional clarity and build quality. You got your nice balanced, it's a balanced system, balanced in, balanced outputs on there. I like the full size. This is the first full size DAC that I've had in for review. And it just makes sense if you're putting it into a rack with your other gear. Obviously, Emotiva would like for you to pair this with, you know, one of their amplifiers to go with it. I think it's good looking. I think it's extremely easy to use. Probably the best remote I've ever seen. No, not probably. It is the best remote I've ever had come in. Excellent sound quality. Now, what about the suggestion, this con? All right. It would be nice to have the ability to just hit a button and put it into DAC only mode. And the reason for that, just in case you want to use a different preamplifier with this, as opposed to using this as your preamp. Just that would, in my mind, improve the versatility just a little bit more. Now, to get around that, as I said, all you do is just set the volume to 0 dB, and then you then put the remote away, and then use plug that into the auxiliary input of an integrated amp or another preamplifier, and off to the races you go. To summarize, I think this is going to be best suited for somebody that's really an audio enthusiast, or a real hardcore audiophile that's looking for a DAC amplifier, headphone amplifier, DAC preamplifier, headphone amplifier that sonically is superb, has a lot of different options to it, well made, at an affordable price for a lot of people. It's not like one of those $30,000 DACs or $28,000 DACs out there. But this will do 99.99% of the audiophile community very, very well. I think that's pretty much it. This was the third time around, so hopefully everything's going to be just fine. Bruce Naylor, your Boomer Consumer. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.